What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today I cooked up a banger for y'all. We got a ton of tips that will help you get better 100%, especially at combat. I feel like it's majority combat focused, to be 100% honest, but I played way more than I'd like to admit, but I played over 100 plus hours of the tech test 2 and of the beta. This beta that just came out last week alone, just for the weekend, I played over 40 or all above 40 hours, so I feel like I have some pretty good tips for you guys, coming from a shooter experience and all that. And I genuinely feel just implementing these into your gameplay will completely turn around how the majority of your gunfights go. And without wasting too much of y'all's time, let's get right into the video. So starting off with tip number 1, we have something simple, but holstering your gun when you go to run. Now this seems simple, I'm sure, for most people, but you'd be oddly surprised how many people have no idea that holstering your gun makes you run faster. And now, it's not just important to be able to run faster just to get from point A to point B, but also in the middle of a fight. Anytime you got to reposition, run away, run around a corner, you know, try to get a different angle. Just holstering your weapon while you're doing that creates like you just get way more distance than you would otherwise. Pretty simple, I know, but figured we started off with something a little simple. For tip number 2, we got dodging and or rolling. When in any form of fight or getting shot by arc, it's very important to use this to dodge incoming damage. As long as you're not directly rolling towards the thing that's shooting at you, most times it's a very good way to change momentum fast and dodge whatever's incoming. And a lot of people use single shot weapons when it comes to fights to initiate the fight, so if you see someone peeking about to shoot you, dodging is a very useful way to bait the bullet, forcing pressure onto them while you hopefully still have your initiating gun reloaded and ready to rumble for the fight. And it's also really good to dodge hornets. Hornets stun you when they hit you, so if you know a bullet's coming at you, it's good to dodge last second, and just for a plethora of other reasons, but those are the main reasons to utilize dodging. And then for tip number 3, we got sliding and stamina preservation. Preserving stamina in any way, shape, or form is very important, just because that's how you do all the movement, that's how you walk, that's how you jump. You can't even climb properly if you don't have enough stamina, so preserving that is really good. And sliding down hills, this is going to sound kind of dumb, but sliding down hills you actually gain stamina back, so just keeping an eye out for these little things that you can do in order to preserve stamina goes a long way, especially if you get pulled up on and you're not expected or anything of the sort. So I know that might be a little simple, but I definitely figured throw that in here. For tip number 4, we got using the environment to mask noise to gain an advantage. And what I mean by this is using the environment, like if someone's getting shot by a drone, 9 chances out of 10 they're not going to hear you if you're just running up on them. But if you're running up on somebody that's looting, 9 chances out of 10 they're going to be listening, and they're definitely going to hear you running up, so they'll be a little bit prepared. Now, if people are fighting, obviously third partying is very popular, but even in this clip that you're seeing right here, like I slid down the hill, used audio, there was gunshots, my teammate just went down. I knew that he had no idea where I went, so I just used the shoulder peek and the lack of audio information for him to get the drop on him and killed him, even though I was super weak, and got huge profit from it. For tip number 5, we got shoulder peeking. In arc raiders, we have the ability to swap shoulders and see what, see more that's available per se than if you just stay on one shoulder at all times. And with doing this, it gives you a huge advantage whenever you're turning any form of corner. Like right now, I'm behind a tree, looking over my left shoulder, but if someone ran up on my right, I could just quickly swap over and peek. It's also good to just peek down the hallway. Like say if you're going to turn a corner, go down a hallway, it's best to peek down that corner with your shoulder rather than just putting your body into that possibly vulnerable position. And it helps a ton in fights too. Like, I'm sure you guys have seen clips at this point of anybody playing and using the shoulder peek, but a good way to practice this, because a lot of people struggle with it, is making sure the bind off rip of the game is set to something that's very accessible for you to press, whether you're a controller or a PC. Just make sure that button, which default on PC it's X, default on controller I believe it's R3, so those are both pretty decent starter binds, but just make sure you get yourself familiar with that as quickly as possible, because it will come in a huge help. For tip number 6, we got perks. Now I'm not going to sit here and tell you exactly what you need to pick, how you need to pick it, but I definitely recommend having an idea how you want to do it. Definitely go through and read them all carefully and make sure it's going for your playstyle and what you want to focus on. But in this video, I'm trying to give tips that are based off combat, and in combat, stamina is super important. Like being able to run, sprint, jump, climb, all that faster is such a huge help in any situation. It creates distance between you and the enemy if you need it. It allows you to reposition quicker. It allows you to re-engage, disengage, all that good stuff and junk really, really easily, and it gives you an advantage over anybody who doesn't have points into that stamina. So I personally recommend stamina. I've had a lot of mixed topics. There's a lot of good ones in each of the three options, but I personally recommend putting a decent amount of points into stamina. If nothing else, getting the max amount of stamina possible, and at least getting a little bit of speed when climbing and stuff like that, because that is very important. For tip number 7, we have prioritize having full health. Now, shield is great, and I definitely don't blame you for popping it if you got, like, 30 HP or whatever the case, especially since it is over time, but definitely try to maintain full health as much as possible, especially if you have any like if you have a decent amount of time, it's 100% worth popping the shield and the health, but prioritize health, because if you don't have the shield, or sorry, if you don't have the health, the shield doesn't really matter. And a great way to explain this, which I've explained to people that have been asking, like if you have 100 shield and 10 health, and then you get shot up, the shield may only negate 20 of the damage before you die, so you'll still have 70 shield while being dead, so, and that can cause a lot of frustration. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're playing and as you're experiencing these things, but definitely try to prioritize the health being as full as possible, as much as possible. Obviously, the better meds, the better amount of healing, bandages, you're going to have to pop a lot more to get that full health, but it's definitely good to keep in mind. And for tip number 8, we got negating fall damage. Now, fall damage is a big thing. Obviously, this piggybacks off of keeping your health as full as possible at all times. There's quite a few ways to actually negate the fall damage and not have to deal with any of it. And one way is by grabbing a ledge close to ground. Obviously, if you're super high up and you're dropping off the top of a tower, this isn't going to work. But as long as you're using like mediocre heights, you can catch a ledge pretty much every time. As well as you can do this with zip lines as well. You can also do this with ladders as well, and it works on every single one. It's a very good way, especially if you're getting chased or chasing someone. It's a very quick way to like catch up, get distance, all that sort of good junk and stuff. Now for tip number 9, we got know what you're going in for, and that's pretty broad, I understand that, but this means know what you're going in for, whether it's PvP, whether it's getting crafting components by killing Ark, or whatever else your purpose might be. And I mention that because if you're going in for crafting components, with Ark, you're more than likely going to get contested at some point, so be prepared to get pushed. Make sure you're bringing enough heals. Make sure your backpack space is enough, because if you bring one of the worst augments and are carrying a ton of stuff, you're going to be encumbered, which will make it a lot harder to deal with. And if you don't bring enough meds, then people will third party. If you're going in for PvP, you're going to want meds anyway. If you're going in just for basic loot components, then that's a completely different thing. Like I even went in for basic loot with just free loadouts, so there's many different things you can do. But if you're going in with a free loadout for just basic loot, I mean, unless you're going in with a free loadout to PvP, that's completely up to you, but you're going to struggle a little bit PvPing with people that are fully kitted and all that, depending on how the matchmaking changes they're discussing right now go. For tip number 10, we have don't have gear fear. Now, most times bringing one weapon is more than fine. However, if you're trying to be conservative with heals, you can run out really fast and be left with nothing to heal with, and then you're just stuck trying to fend off whether it's Ark or enemies while completely out of heals. So definitely gear fear is alright, just try to be able to manage it and know when you should be bringing extra or when you shouldn't. And for tip number 11, we got aim for the Ark weak spots. Now this is just way better for taking down Ark. It helps tremendously with taking them down quick, plus using a heavy weapon makes it even faster. Now the weak spots themselves, however, can vary. Like for example, the Snitcher is a light gray padding on 3 of its sides, and the Bison's weak spots are the yellow spots on its legs, and I think there's a little yellow spot you gotta break too, like right under its face or right on its back. And then the Hornets, for example, is the wings. Like there's on the front too, there's the armor padding. Once you break the armor padding, then you get to the raw wing itself. And that's how you take them all down quick. Heavy weapon makes it way quicker though. For tip number 12, we got use grenades and learn their abilities and effects. Some grenades stun, some grenades explode, dealing mass amounts of damage, some stick, some don't, and you can even use drops from Ark as grenades. Like for example, the snitch scanner, you can throw down and it'll spawn drones near enemies or foes, whatever it's near when it goes off, which can be very, very essential to winning those fights. For tip number 13, we have make sure to check for Ark power cells. If you kill an Ark, you might as well check for these. They're not useless. They can actually be used to restore 2 bars worth of shield, and in the server slam you could infinitely use it on allies, which is huge, very important. Not sure, hopefully it doesn't go into the full game because it's very OP in my opinion, but it's definitely good to know and be aware for, just in case. For tip number 14, use arc to your advantage. Many times when going to building to loot, there's a ton of arc. Many of them you don't have to kill. You don't need to kill them in order to get upstairs, and I recommend leaving as many alive as you can in hopes that if someone tries to sneak up on you, the arc aggroes onto them rather than you, and then it alerts you while you're looting, because sometimes it is pretty hard to hear the audio cues, and it is extremely useful when solo. It's a lot easier to hear 3 dudes running up on you or sneaking up on you, a lot harder when one dude is crouching the whole way up a staircase trying to shoot you in the back. One's extracting right now. I heard the turret make a noise, but for tip number 15, it's kind of simple, but use the firing range. Warming up, in my experience, within shooters is extremely important in keeping your aim better than your opponents, as well as learning recoil with guns that you may not have experience with, and if nothing else, at least it'll be a little bit easier to kill the arc. And for the final tip, tip number 16, we got something a little simple, but it's definitely important to abuse, and that is the night raids. And there's not only night raids, I forget exactly what the name of it was, but there was one where it was like thunder and lightning in this last playtest, or I guess it was technically server slam, but there was multiple different events, and normally the sweatier folk tend to go over there, so if you're trying to get some PvP in, it's normally always best to go to the night raids and whatnot, but also pay attention to those events, because they can also yield better loot, and if you have keys can give you access to rooms with better loot in general, and then that's only amplified with these night raids and with these events. So I highly recommend, if you're looking for good loot fast, to abuse that right there. And with that being said, that's the 16 tips I got to hopefully help you out in the battlefield. I've given these tips to many people. Everybody seems to enjoy them, so hopefully you guys can as well. Make sure to leave a like, follow, comment. If you got any questions, leave them down in the comments. I'll answer as many as I possibly humanly can. And yeah, without further ado, I'll catch y'all in the next video. If you guys are interested in watching me play this, I'll be live at twitch.tv/bearwithavibe. Not to shamelessly self-promote, but that's where I'll be live. Anyway, I'm going to keep making these videos. Let me know if you guys have any questions or anything you want to see, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Yo, peace.